How do I fix my startup's delivery problems? Imagine this scenario. You've finally figured out how to sell your product or service. You've got millions of dollars worth of backlog. However, you're missing every delivery or onboarding commitment you've made. Your customers are pissed and threatening to cancel. And if you're not careful, you may kill your company just when it appears to be taking off. The problem of not being able to ramp up delivery or onboard customers happens all the time. In today's video, I'll share with you the challenges Greg is facing and the strategies we're implementing to solve his problems. I hope you like it. Hi, I'm Brett. On my channel, I help early stage startup CEOs like you raise money and grow your startup. So if this sounds like you, then hit the subscribe button and the bell and get notified every time I release a new video. Let's get started by talking about Greg's challenge. Revenue is growing, but they can't successfully onboard customers on schedule. Greg's company is growing like crazy. Their product is a game changer for their customers, and Greg's company is having a really tough time keeping up with the onboarding of new customers. Customers need support to install the company's complex software. Greg's company has a team of engineers dedicated to the process. In the company's early days, Greg personally managed the engineering team responsible for onboarding. The problem is, the company has grown so big that Greg can't spend all of his time managing operations. So Greg hired Sam to manage operations now. The team keeps making lots of mistakes. The communications between the engineering team and the sales team is inconsistent. The engineering team is missing its commitments and not committing at all, or just not communicating. The operations manager in charge of the process is too trusting of his team, so the team feels it's okay to miss the commitments. The only way anything gets done is when Greg, the CEO, intervenes, and that won't work. The result is that onboarding commitments are almost always missed. Fortunately, I've seen these issues my whole career. I learned how to solve these problems from two mentors I had, Steve Combs and Bill Levin, when I worked at Maxim Integrated Products. Maxim was one of the most successful analog IC companies ever, but its Achilles heel was delivery issues. The problem was so bad that the customer's engineers at major companies banned Maxim parts from their designs. That's how serious it got. I watched Steve and Bill implement strategies that transformed the way we operated so that Maxim's delivery issues became a non-issue and customer trust was restored. Scaling is almost always difficult for startups. Every startup I've ever worked with has experienced problems with scaling. The good news, as I told Greg, is these problems are almost always fixable. And even better, it's not rocket science to fix them. Once you know the steps, it's very straightforward. And now let's work through those steps that Greg and I took to solve his problems. Number one on our list, create a single point of contact for sales. As I said earlier, Greg and his team had cracked the code regarding sales. They had a product that customers loved, and Greg's sales team, headed by Neville, knew exactly how to sell the product. However, the onboarding process was a disaster. Worse yet, the sales team didn't know who to talk to inside the operations team. So sales would call operations, and they would get answers they couldn't count on. They didn't know what to tell their customers, as commitments were missed again and again. The solution was having one person represent operations to the field. This one person would be responsible for getting the latest information to sales. Ideally, the person to communicate with sales should be Greg's operations manager, Sam. However, Greg had concluded that Sam wasn't the right person. Instead, Greg decided to have his right-hand man, Alex, be the single point of contact for sales. Greg knew he could count on Alex to take control of the situation, and Greg instructed Alex to ask him for help if something went wrong. This leads directly to step 2 in the process. Step number 2, daily meetings between sales and operations. One of the most important things you can do when trust is lost between two groups is be open kimono. In other words, you share everything with the other group, sales in this case, and you answer every question the sales organization has. That's exactly what Greg did. Alex began having daily meetings with sales. He updated them on every single customer onboarding project. He shared the good news and the bad news. Nothing was hidden from sales. Slowly, two things began happening. The first was sales could see the improvement in operations meeting commitments. Second, and most importantly, trust began improving between the two groups. This leads to step number 3 in the process, a clear escalation path to the CEO. Greg told Neville that if he needed help, he could call him day or night to get him involved. Greg gave Alex the same orders. Greg could use his power as CEO to unblock any issues. For example, prioritization issues could instantly be solved. And if another group inside of the company was uncooperative, Greg could remove that blockage too. Now, the basic communication systems were in place. However, there was still lots to do to fix the major operational issues the company had. This moves us to step number 4 on the list. Step number 4, hire a detail-oriented VP of operations. Sam was hired to be Greg's VP of operations, and Sam had done a good job of fixing some of the organization's problems. However, Sam was not detail-oriented. He was too trusting of his team. The result was that onboarding issues continued. It was clear, as Greg and I talked it through, that Sam might be better off managing a different area of the company. That's why Greg was having Alex manage operations on an interim basis. However, he needed a permanent solution. I told Greg, you need an old-fashioned, cigar-chomping, detail-oriented manager that's not afraid to kick ass when needed. Greg answered, I think I know the right person. I've worked with Jim before. He wants to join the company. I just need to make it happen. Greg's goal was to add Jim to the team within the next month. That was great news. Now let's move to number 5 on my list. Number 5, build a skunk works team for major customers. As Greg's company grew, major OEMs that are household names started placing orders. The good news is these customers could grow revenue and the company's profile significantly. The bad news is major OEMs are very unforgiving. They are not going to put up with the mistakes Greg's company has been making. The solution was to have a skunkworks team of Greg's best people personally manage the onboarding for these major customers. The team would be the best onboarding engineers the company had. They were extremely motivated. These were people that Greg and Alex could rely on. Greg had already experimented with this concept before, and the results were excellent. It was a great solution to a pressing problem. Next, let's move to number 6 on my list. Number 6, define who does what by when. We've all been in meetings before when you ask for a commitment and you get a vague answer like, I'll have that done next week. or the specifics of what the person is committing to aren't specific at all, or multiple people are responsible for the same action. Any one of these things are doomed to failure for your company. Greg and Alex implemented a very simple who will do what by when policy. For each line item on each project, Greg and Alex made sure that there was one person responsible for each line item. That's the who. The do what piece is the line item was very specific. And the when is a specific date on the calendar when that line item would be completed by. When you implement this system, accountability increases and the wiggle room for someone to evade or mislead decreases. The key to making this work is not letting people off the hook when they miss a commitment. And when they do miss a commitment, and they will, you ask, when did you know you were going to miss this commitment? Then the teaching begins. You say this, you need to ask for help and communicate this immediately back to me or Alex or whomever it is. No more Hobson's choices, which means you have no choice. This leads to the final piece of the puzzle, number 7 on my list. Number 7, have the courage to fire people. Accountability starts at the top. As CEO, everyone is watching what you do. Usually when you hear talk that you're going to fire people, it means the junior people. However, I believe that's like rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. Instead, start at the top and work down. The reason Greg is currently having trouble is Sam wasn't capable of managing the details. So that's why he is being replaced by Alex and Jim eventually. Their job is replacing any managers that aren't owning the problems in their organizations and fixing them. The same philosophy goes to every level of your organization. If you operate with everyone understanding they are accountable, you will see significant improvement in onboarding, delivery, or whatever scheduling issues you are having. Now, if this content is resonating with you, then please hit the like button right now. One final thought. Pay attention to the details. The first time I went through this problem was years ago at Maxim. Our revenue grew from around $200 million a year to $400 million overnight. And the systems that were working all failed all at once. We implemented the strategies I outlined today, and the problem was quickly solved. Since then, I've used the same approach to solve similar problems. It's not rocket science. It's just basic management, blocking and tackling. Just pay attention to every detail, no matter how small, and you'll systematically solve your problem. Now, I have 2 more things for you today. First, my free startup pitch deck template. It has all the slides you need to develop an awesome pitch deck. Click the link below to get yours for free. Second, join my free group of startup CEOs Zero to Pitch. It's a community for startup CEOs focused on growing their companies and raising funding for their companies. Click the link below to join. Finally, click the subscribe button to get notified every time I release a new video. I'm Brett at brettjfox.com. Thanks for watching today. Take care. Bye.